Look at the sun. Breathe the sky. Breathe the sky. Good evening. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali. And tonight I've got a really huge episode. Just kind of like eyeballing down because I'm checking a little bit on settings here. I'm using a few different settings in the show this evening. As you can see, I'm using my headset here. Um, boom mic has been modified by me, so I've got a pop filter built in on the boom mic. Um, So I've got a huge episode tonight. This is Midwestern Geek and Cali episode 106. And let's head over and take a look at the title. We'll talk a little bit more about stuff shortly here. And for that, I need to give you folks a little bit of the infinity screen. Here we are, the infinity screen. All right, so now I can give you a little bit of desktop here. And as always, I like to start in the website. You can get here just by typing in MidwesternGeekandCali.com. You don't have to do the blog spot because MidwesternGeekandCali.com forwards right here. And as always, you can see all my previous episodes on the blog site. Um, this might not be loading fully right now because if you notice across the top, I have a boatload of tabs open here. We've got a really big episode tonight. I want to make a note over here on the right hand side, episode list, oldest to newest. Some shortcuts there to get to uh, older episodes. And of course, my last episode, which I'm not sure how many of you have seen yet, is actually a demo, Midwestern Geek in Cali, episode 105, Peppermint 10 Linux demo. And I just go through kind of using Linux Peppermint 10 from a user perspective, considering somebody that might be coming straight from Windows to Linux Peppermint. So I wanted to give folks an idea of how far along Linux has come, especially if you're thinking, well, I'm on Windows 7, I need to get rid of it, and let's say your computing hardware is a little bit older, you're a little worried about going to Windows 10, will it be able to handle it, or you've got an older machine sitting around collecting dust because it's not really good enough for Windows 10, but a lot of these Linux distributions run fine on older hardware with a lot lower specs. So you could have a kind of high-end Windows 10 PC for biz and use an older PC to run Linux for just everyday home use and stuff like that. So uh, you take a peek at that if you get a chance. It'll give you an idea of what using Linux looks like. And then, as always, I'm going to have show notes, and I've started dividing things up into zones because there's so many stories coming out. I've got a couple of weeks worth of news to do in this episode because I'm doing the Peppermint 10 demo last week. Took up all the time I had for doing a show episode. I couldn't get into any of last week's news, so I've got quite a bit going on, and I've kind of divided things up um, into sections, kind of like I did back in episode 104. And I think I might have, no, I think I started doing this with 104. Let me take a look back here. 103. Yeah, no, I started with 103. Okay, so at any rate, we're going to go ahead and get into the episode itself. I mean, if you can get here, you can find whatever you need on the site. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this tab because I have so many tabs open right now. It'll save a little resources. So this is going to be tonight's episode 106: Space Operas, Mad Scientists, and the War of the Cybertruckers. So the first zone we're going to get into is the reading and sci-fi zone, and I want to talk a little bit about Doc Smith's Skylark series, a classic 20th century space opera jewel. Now, let me hop over here a little bit. These are some doodles I was doing while I was kind of thinking about stuff. I mean, doodling for me is a little bit on the mindless side. Especially these little small things on post-it notes. Lets me kind of quiet my mind and focus on whatever I'm trying to think about. So, at any rate, I want to talk about Doc Smith and the complete Skylark series, and especially the Skylark of Valorant. Now, another series, if you'll notice here on this cover, um, Doc Smith also created the Lensman series, and I read those books as well. But I first was introduced to Doc Smith on the Skylark series, and this is classic space opera kind of. You've got your protagonist hero and his wife and his friends and kind of his crew, and you've got his alien helpers, and you've got your enemy or nemesis. It's almost, in a way, it's kind of like if you took Sherlock Holmes into space, but not the kind of loner Sherlock Holmes was with the and it's not. I don't know if the mystery part of it is really there. There's suspense, but I don't know if it's like a whodunit kind of mystery. Not really. But it's a lot of great adventure, and it's real fun, light reading. And I certainly enjoyed it. I read these books when I was probably in junior high school in the 70s, and I absolutely loved them. They were one of my favorite series, and it's definitely worth taking a look at if you love sci-fi and light reading. If you're a fan of space opera like John Carter of Mars, Star Wars, the old Buck Rogers shows, Flash Gordon, all that kind of stuff. This doesn't have the comedic and kind of goofy element that you got with Flash Gordon, especially the one that was what the late 70s, early 80s. Um, that was kind of a little bit of a parody of Flash Gordon, but it definitely has that space opera kind of fun adventure thing going for it. So it's definitely worth a read. And I don't know if these are still in print, so you probably would have to find these in a used book somewhere. A little bit of geek fuel going on here because I'm going to need to wet my whistle occasionally. And then, as you can see, there's a compilation of the entire series. If you can find that, that might be the easiest way to go about it. So, I'm going to go ahead and get out of the pics here. That's all I wanted to show you from there. So the next thing up, we're gonna in the reading and sci-fi zone, we're gonna be talking about is Project Blue Book. It's in season two, and this is based um, on the investigations by the original Project Blue Book. It's a little bit of a dramatization of it. It's not exactly a historical documentary. It's a dramatized portrayal of the Blue Book investigations and Dr. Hynek and his Air Force liaison officer. So it's gotten really, really good in the second season. I liked the first season a lot. The second season has gotten really good. So I do want to recommend that you give Project Blue Book a shot. It's over on History Channel. So go and check it out. It's a lot of fun. And then let's talk about open access journals get a boost from librarians. This is a little bit more of an important story. Let's see here. Uh, it's given me a little bit of a goof on the actual story. Let's see if I can pull this up another time. And so I'm hitting a paywall on this one, and that's interesting. Let's see. All right. Interesting. I was able to pull this on my Droid, no problem. So let me talk a little bit about what this is going. Well, this should be on Ars Technica. Why am I getting that? Let me see if I can hit this another way because the story is important. I'll have to fix the show notes on this, but let's see if we can pull it another route. Yeah, there we go. And I'm definitely going to need to fix this on the show notes links. All right, so this is the one I was talking about. Let me just real quick, I'm going to edit this in the show notes so that when you, if any of you go over there and take a look, you actually can find it. And let's do this. Good, it's picking up the right link. We'll save that. That's me getting ready to put up the show notes. And here we go. Here's the article on Ars Technica. I'm going to just dump that tab real quick. And what they're talking about here is science journals and ways to post science articles. Uh, Now, you have journals like The Lancet, which is medical, and a lot of journals where scientists post, um, peer-reviewed articles on scientific discoveries or research and theories and stuff. And this company, Elsevier, is the one that publishes a lot of those science and medical journals. And it's been costing libraries a huge amount of money for those publications. So they have actually come up and figured out a way to do a much more open source version or methodology for the same researchers and scientists and medical professionals who are posting articles to give them another platform that actually is reachable by libraries. So this is a really interesting article. I strongly recommend going and giving this a read if you're at all interested in science or medicine. Uh, Go and check it out. It's actually a pretty important one, and it's an interesting change going on in the background for libraries. All right, so that gets us out of the reading zone and last word and into space, the final frontier. So let's take a look. SpaceX resurrects the California Starship factory plans just 1 year after abandoning it. Let's go. So apparently, SpaceX was going to dump their building facilities out at the Los Angeles port or the port of Los Angeles, and now they've turned around and changed their minds, and they're going to start building starships over in Los Angeles. That Starship is the really big rocket that they're planning on using for launching like 400 Starlink satellites at a time, launching colonists to Mars. This is kind of a big deal. So, interesting article if you're from California or an Angelino. You might want to go check this article out. It's kind of a cool big deal for California. So, let's drop that and we'll go on. And Elon Musk promotes Texas Career Day as SpaceX files paperwork for Starship flight as early as March. So let's take a look there. And here we have it, Starship. And there's another Starship building facility um, being constructed out in Texas. And so that's why you're seeing issues, a story about a Texas Career Day. Now, there's more going on in Texas, and we're going to get to that at some point, a little bit further into the episode. But love that picture of Starship. I don't. This isn't actually the full-on Starship. I think this is more of a test version. I'm thinking because I know uh, it's a real photograph. It looks like, but I don't think that's the final version of Starship. But it sure is a nice pic. And so let's uh, go over here to this one. SpaceX requests permission to fly a new Starship rocket on a 12-mile high test flight. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So maybe that was the full-on Starship. You can see that's a pretty big bird, and they want to. You're talking next month. They want to do a 12-mile high test flight of Starship next month. That's pretty cool. So definitely go check that article out. And let's see. Will humanity achieve interstellar travel and find alien life? Well, that's the question of the century, isn't it? Um, so there's a lot in this article, and I had a really quick skim of it. I'm actually going to go back and reread this one myself. I want to get a little deeper into it, but yeah, I mean, if you are into this kind of stuff, then this is definitely an article for you. So let's move on. Elon Musk, of course, Musk and SpaceX are dominating space news in most media sources right now. And this is kind of a fun one. Elon Musk sent his Tesla Roadster into space 2 years ago. Here's where it is now. So, uh, of course. And uh, yeah, this is a fun article. I'm not going to reveal any more than that. You need to, I don't like to, as I've said in previous episodes, I don't like to dive in and just give away the entire article. I want folks that are interested to understand what news is out there, what's going to be interesting and I believe is important news, and I want to encourage them to go to the producers of that news and read it um, on their website. So I'm not going to give you everything here, but this one's a lot of fun. And the Roadster and Starman, if you want to find out kind of where it is and what condition it's in, this might be a good article to go check out. A little more on the fun and less serious side. So let's see. Elon Musk reveals SpaceX Starship production well underway inside new Texas factory. So Texas is playing a big deal in this. As you can see, they're making a lot of progress on working on Starship. They really put up these factories for production of Starship quick. You're talking about moving fast. This is definitely moving fast, and with a flight plan for next month, if they can get approval for it, that's really pretty amazing. So, uh, all this early Starship news, if this really goes through, it's going to be a big, big deal in space. This is probably one of the biggest stories and grandest visions in space exploration that we've seen. Uh, I think in some ways it's going to actually surpass Apollo if it actually happens. And that is, I know, kind of a huge statement. The Apollo moon missions were so amazing. Now, I mean, they really are what turned me on to space as a kid when I got to see um, when I got to see the first Apollo mission, the first landing on the moon. I was a kid in summer school in between second and third grade, and um, yeah, I moved from one state to another, so I had to do makeup work to get ready to be in third grade in a different school system. And there was one day in July that the teacher rolled out that little black and white TV on a cart, and my life was changed forever by that day. And I think the story of humanity is going to be changed forever if Elon Musk and his vision with Starship actually comes to pass. So I think this is big, big news, a lot bigger than people realize. All right, well, we're going to get over here. Elon Musk working at night, shares Starship um, SN1 progress from Boca Chica. This is again in Texas. So he's down in Boca Chica, Texas, which is where the Starship production facility that's up and running is actually at. And so some progress updates there. If you're interested in the Starship story, this is a pretty important article. So go check it out. And uh, here we go again with SpaceX again dominating the space news. And this is a big one. William Gerstenmaier joined SpaceX. And that's a really big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal because this guy was really big in NASA, and particularly with manned missions at NASA, manned spaceflight. He's got a lot of expertise and know-how in manned spaceflight, and SpaceX is looking to do manned spaceflight soon. You're talking flights to the ISS very soon with their new Dragon crew capsule. That isn't going to be necessarily part of Starship, but eventually Starship is going to be transporting quite a few people to Mars and the moon as well. If Elon Musk's vision for SpaceX and Starship come to pass, and I, I'm taking it seriously when you get somebody like William Gerstenmaier joining SpaceX to help as a consultant on this program. Um, this is really important news, and I'd strongly recommend taking a peek at this article. All right, and on that note, we're going to end this week's universe and move over to communicator, networking, and broadband. And we're going to start talking about a little bit of communications news and internet broadband news as well. Give me a sec. I need a little geek fuel here. I'm trying to be careful and not bang the handle of that coffee mug into the boom mic on the headset. So, the first one's kind of fun. It's not very serious, but it is fun. Cybertruck inspired iPhone 11 costs 15 grand and isn't made by Tesla or Apple on The Verge. Now, The Verge is one of my favorite sites. It's definitely a cool looking phone. Check out the cover and go read the article. I'm going to give you that. That's a nice little teaser there. Fun article. If you're a phone geek like me and my friend Eric, you might want to go check that out. Just saying. I don't know if I'd lay down 15 grand for it, but cool article. A lot of fun. All right. So next up, we're gonna be talking a little bit more about SpaceX because they're doing something else big. It's called Starlink. So, SpaceX Starlink, when will it be available in my area? Let's get over to that. And you can see here that this is an article on, guesstimating when you'll be able to use Starlink internet and pricing, and a lot of that stuff is, pardon the pun, up in the air. Well, above the air, actually. But this article is probably about as good a guesstimate as you're going to get on it. So if you're interested in when you're going to be able to use Starlink in your area and roughly some idea of what it might cost, here you go. This is one to check out. So go give it a peek. And as always, you can find all these articles in the show notes at MidwesternGeekandCali.com under episode 106. So that link will be over there for you. All right, and let's get on to the next one. Um, report SpaceX is planning to spin out Starlink satellite broadband network and take it public. Okay, I'm telling you, if this actually happens, if they IPO Starlink, I am buying some shares. I'm gonna dig into my little pick-a-uni paycheck and get over and buy some shares of this if this thing goes public. And I'm going to buy it early on because I think this is going to be a big deal. And I ain't going to buy a whole lot because I can't really afford it, but I'm definitely going with it. So this is the deeper dive into what's happening with that, and you'll need to go read the article to go deeper than that. But just saying, uh, just to be one of the cool kids on the block, I'd want to have a few shares of this thing, and who knows, might be worth big bucks eventually. So, fun article there, and yeah, I wonder how much it'll start off at. That's an interesting thing there, and go read the article and see what they think. Okay, next up. SpaceX Starlink is a step closer to beaming satellite internet to Australia. So, for those friends of mine down under, and let's see if I can get rid of this thing. Blah, 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 blah. We're a little off target there. All right, so SpaceX Starlink is a step closer to beaming satellite internet to Australia. So Trudy and crew, this is for you. All right. Actually, I'm looking forward to seeing this happen, but its article is dealing with things like regulatory hurdles that SpaceX needs to pass through in order to be able to offer service legally in Australia. That's got more to do with that than the actual hardware and technical side of things. Definitely an interesting article and worth taking a read. So I'm going to have to flip around. I got things a little bit out of order there, but go check it out. And let's go back over here. And there we go. I actually did get a little out of order. I missed this one here. Elon Musk is about to deliver the future of high-speed internet. And this is the clue right here. Get your investment dollars ready. This is actually following up with that Starlink IPO. It's another article that's given some analysis on the possible IPO for Starlink, and definitely of interest. So again, I've already said I'm gonna get at least a share or five of this. If I can, it really depends on what the pricing is, how many shares I buy. Now, I don't have a lot to spend, so it may be even fractional shares. I don't know. So, but I'm gonna go for it if they IPO the thing. And if you want to take a look at it and see whether you might be interested in picking up a few shares, just on a broadband lark there, so to speak, go check it out. There's a couple of good articles in there for you on that. All right, and this last one in communicator here is 5G technology, 5G antenna, and MIMO. So let's go take a look at this. New antenna tech could make your phone ridiculously strong, signal ridiculously strong. And this is pretty interesting. They're talking about a much smaller antenna, different software to run it, different physical form, and whole bunch of stuff. But this is pretty cool if it comes to pass. It might even be better for power consumption on the phone. So definitely a phone geek kind of article here, worth a read, and definitely go check it out. All right, so on that note, we're going to close the channel on the communicator and get into artificial intelligence, computing, and robotics. And this is where I'm going to be talking about PCs and um, Linux and all kinds of other stuff. All right, let me double check. I got the audio back on. I didn't want to choke on screen. Sorry. Kind of tired of that, but it looks like the audio is running. Let's get back over here where we belong and off that infinity screen. That's fun for the get-go, but it's not really useful long term. All right. So Google's new messaging app to unify Gmail, Drive, and Hangouts and other small business tech news. I think a unified Gmail messaging app that this really kind of leaves me a little bit confused. I think this is more geared towards enterprise users at this point. Um, I'm gonna want to reread this article again because it's been a little bit since I actually got a chance to skim through it really quick. But I'm interested to see what the vision for this is going forward and how are they going to fit all this into one app. So just is this Google trying to come up with another competitor to other messaging apps that are more popular, or are they actually going to make something successful this time? Yeah, it's an interesting proposition, so I definitely want to find out. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about just how big a deal is Google's new Mina chatbot model. All right, and here we go. They're actually working with some serious artificial intelligence to come up with a chatbot that does a lot of things that are a little bit more advanced than what you're used to in chatbots now. Google's got some really deep AI pockets. Their artificial intelligence experience is pretty incredible. So this is another one I want to read again a little bit deeper, but I'd say take a look because I think this is really is the future of chatbots and what they're going to be doing with them. So go take a peek. All right. And VPNs will change forever with the arrival of WireGuard into Linux. We're going to get on that one. So they're
What do
actually
you want to do
going to
later?
be
I'll be
including
at Best Buy.
WireGuard
We're having a huge
into the
sale right now
Linux
on smart home
kernel. It's
tech,
going to
TVs,
be
appliances, and more.
actually
Take
embedded
me
in
with you.
Linux.
Shop the Best Buy President's
So
Day sale now for
you
deals on hundreds of
definitely want
items.
to take and check this out. And of course, this thing is playing in the background here. Good thing I have that volume turned down. Let's kill that off for a minute. I'm not a big fan of all these blinky blanky, damn ads that pop up, pop in your face, interrupt your reading. They're a great way to break your concentration and distract you from what you really came here from. I'm much more of a fan of banner ads. This is what I miss about paper magazines. The stuff did not jump in your face. You were actually able to focus and concentrate on what you came in to read. So just saying, I know they've got to make money with advertising, but it really is annoying and distracting. And this is one of the worst things about the internet versus the world of paper. Just saying. So VPN, if for those of you who don't know what a VPN is, all right, let's say you go to Starbucks or your local restaurant or pizza joint or whatever, or the theater or hotel, and they have free Wi-Fi, right? And that Wi-Fi, you just accept the terms and boom, you're on, you're surfing the web and doing whatever. But the problem with all that is, A, you don't own the routers, you don't know what machines are behind the routers, and everything being sent on Wi Fi without a password is unencrypted and being sent in plain clear text. So anybody with the right software on a laptop in range of that transmission, or if the Wi-Fi router owner has servers that store the packets being transmitted across that connection, they can get in and they can read what's being sent across, including things like usernames and passwords. So it's very insecure and not very safe. What VPN does is it puts software on your PC and or on your phone as well, phone, tablet, PC, whatever, a little piece of client software. And whenever there's an internet connection established, then the client software goes out across the internet, hooks up with a VPN server somewhere, and it encrypts the communications all the way from you to the VPN server on the internet. There's more to the story than that with VPN as far as what you should look for in a good VPN, but the basic bottom line is that it encrypts all your traffic, so whoever owns the Wi-Fi router, whoever's sitting in radio range of that Wi-Fi transmission with sniffer software, they're not going to see anything but gobbledygook. So embedding WireGuard into the Linux kernel so it's actually part of the operating system is kind of a big deal. So this article is definitely well worth a read. Go take a peek. All right. And here we go. How to restore Gmail's missing dark mode on Android. I'm not going to dive deep into this, but dark mode basically turns your Gmail dark and all the text light. And what really is going on there, why it's a big deal. A, I think it's easier reading, it's easier on the eyes. I mean, you compare and contrast all this white screen um, with black text and the dark screen with white text. I think that the text is a little bit easier to read, but the real big deal about this is your battery, right? Especially on a smartphone, the display uses the most battery out of everything on your phone. So if you take a look in this, where with all the white background and the black text, the pixels for the text are turned off basically. They're not using any juice, but the pixels for all this white are turned on. Most of your screen is running and working and using power when you're using a light background with dark text. Whereas it's exactly the opposite. Most of your screen is off and only the text pixels are turned on. So where you're reading in dark mode. And so it's a nice battery saver for mobile devices. So if you're on the run, dark mode is definitely better. And that came along with Android 10 system-wide dark mode. That was kind of a big deal. I've got it on my Droid. And this is really important. So apparently there was an issue with some kind of update that broke dark mode in Gmail, and this is a fix for it. So go take a look if you're having issues with Gmail not running in dark mode on your Droid. That article is for you. All right, and then lock down your Gmail account like it's Fort Knox with the Google Advanced Protection Program. This is over on CNET. Basically, you get a security key fob, and you need to have this key fob in range of your phone or your PC and able to get into your Gmail, which means it's not just the password in the phone. Right now, I mean, anybody can unlock your phone, they can get into your Gmail, right? If you've got this thing, your Google accounts are much, much, much more secure. It does cost about $50 for a set of keys, but definitely something you should consider. I'm actually thinking about getting this. The Surface itself is free now, note, but the key fobs cost money, about $50, they said. So take a peek at that article if you want to keep your Gmail secured. Don't lose the fob either. Um, Install all media codecs in Ubuntu with a single command. I like this, these kind of Linux tutorial type of things. But what a media codec is that is the algorithm or software encoder, decoder that allows you to play various forms of media. Like if you've got MP4 for video, there's a codec that reads and encodes MP4. If you're recording MP4 or if you're watching MP4, you need the right codec to be able to play the file. Same thing with MP3 audio and all the other audio and video formats out there, they have their own codec, right? And let's get rid of that. Blinky blinky stuff. All right. So there's a single command that you can use. This is a beginner's tip. I'm actually going to play with this because I use a different system that I have here for Linux. Learning Linux is running Peppermint 10, like I did in the demo on episode 105, and that is based on Ubuntu, their most recent stable release platform. It's on 18.04 LTS. Ubuntu is the base that underlies that Peppermint 10, but Peppermint 10 is slimmed down, lighter, um, and uses less system resources and runs a little faster than Ubuntu, which is why I went with it. And it's well supported. So I'm going to need to go back into this article myself and run this just so that I've got all the codecs I need in case I'm using different video and audio files on my Linux machine. So this is for me and my watchers. So let's get back over here. How to use Multipass, a new tool for launching virtual machines. Now this is kind of cool, and of course, goodbye. And what you want to know about multipass and virtual machines, it's a way to run multiple operating systems on the same PC hardware at the same time. It's like having two, three, four, five computers in one. Microsoft has their own version. It's called Hyper-V. There's another common one out there called VMware. Um, and this is one from Linux. And actually, it sounds pretty cool. And unlike Microsoft's Hyper-V, this one is going to be free, more than likely. So if you're interested in playing around with virtual machines and machine virtualization, this is definitely one for you. And if you still aren't quite understanding what machine virtualization is, think about this. If you could fit the equivalent of five computers inside one computer box, you still only have to plug in the power outlet for the one computer box, and you still only need the floor space for one computer box. So this is big for businesses that run a lot of computers. But it's also interesting for people who work in technology to learn and understand, because if you're going to be a technician working for a big company, you're going to run into this. All right, I'm just gonna check my mic real quick. Looks like mic is working. All right, so there we go. Multipass, we're done with that. All right, so This one's a fun one. Not just fun, but uh, fun in the sense of, interesting, cool. This one's a fun one, and it's going to make your life easier. So, here we go, and let's see if we can't. Hmm, no real way to shut that down. Interesting. All right. Microsoft confirms massive Windows 10 upgrade changes. Now, this is not going to happen overnight, but they are going to change the way Windows updates work. They won't necessarily reboot your PC, and they'll happen within seconds to a couple of minutes rather than the long, drawn out, really annoying stop your computer in its tracks and don't do anything, and you can't walk away from where you were when you went to shut your computer down because you can't turn off the power on your laptop or have it run out of battery in the middle and all that. And goodness knows what other issues are going to happen. Well, Windows Update is getting a major overhaul, but not in the current version of Windows 10. It's going to be in Windows 10X. So, this is definitely an article for you if you are frustrated with the current environment and universe that we have to live in with Windows Update as it exists today. Welcome to the future. I really hope they do this and it works well. And please, please, please come true and go read the article. It's pretty cool. All right. So, Windows 10's planned Power Toy could seriously supercharge your keyboard. Let's go get into this a little bit. And here you go. If you don't know what Power Toy is, this goes way back to Windows 3.1, Windows 95. I want to say there was a series of tools for advanced computer users called Power Toys, and they are bringing that back in Windows 10. And what that does is it allows you to custom map keyboard shortcuts, and that's probably enough to tell you right there. If you're into customizing your PC and you like keyboard shortcuts, and believe me, once you know keyboard shortcuts, it's a much faster way to get around than with the mouse. But the trick is knowing them and having them memorized. Well, if you're the one that set them, you're going to be a lot more likely to know them. So, if you're interested in that, definitely go check it out. This is for the geeks and the people who like to be able to do things quicker with their PC. That's a good one there. All right. So last, we've got a little bit of a update on Microsoft's Windows Terminal. I talked about this, I want to say back in episode 102 or 103, Windows Terminal. Um, let's dump
So when I
that
needed an e-commerce site
and
with all the bells and
little
whistles,
silence, please. Yeah, all the bells and whistles. Yeah, you couldn't be more right about that. So Windows Terminal, it's almost like a browser for the command line. You can have tabs, you can do search. Yeah, and the current iteration of Windows Terminal that you can get from the Windows Store, it's not really got all those bells and whistles just yet, but it does have tabs, and which is huge because you can be in PowerShell in one tab and command line and the command prompt in the other tab. You can have multiple tabs open in multiple sessions doing multiple things at the same time. I've got Windows Terminal installed on a couple of PCs. Just real quick, I'm going to fire it up and show you. All I do is type WT in the search box and run it. And here we go. I've got a Windows Terminal session. It comes up in PowerShell by default. Now, if I open another tab over here, I can go CMD. Headset cords running um, right across the keyboard, and there we go. Now I'm in command prompt. All right, and then I can run command prompt from this one. I'm running command prompt from within PowerShell. So there's different commands available in command prompt than there are in PowerShell, and PowerShell is newer and more powerful, but there's still some things in command prompt that are necessary and handy and that you need to use. So to be able to have the same window with tabs to go between PowerShell, notice the PS in front of the command line there, and no PS in front of the command prompt there. That's how you can tell I'm in command prompt rather than PowerShell, right? And to be able to do that in one screen and just flip back and forth and run the commands that you need on the different tabs, that's huge by itself. That's a big advance from what we had, um, you know, with either command prompt or PowerShell on their own. They run in a single window with no tabs. Well, now they're going to be adding search. They're going to be adding a retro look to it, um, and quite a few other things. So there's a whole bunch in that article. If you're interested in Windows Terminal, yeah, we're going to close all that. Definitely, this is one you'll want to check out because this is going to give you a little bit more about what it'll do, and also that Windows Terminal will run Linux commands like a bash shell if you're using Windows Subsystem for Linux on your Windows machine. So, and discover all kinds of other PowerShell modules. There's a whole bunch more to it. So if you're into command line, this is definitely an article you're going to want to see. All right, let's move on. This actually gets us out of the artificial intelligence zone. Scotty pulled the plug on that thing. All right, so we're going to get into hard science. And here we go, room temperature superconductor breakthrough at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. This is really cool. And no, I don't need notifications. Stop blinking in my face, please. And so this is a big deal because if you can get room temperature superconductors, it makes everything electrical much more efficient. I mean, superconductors basically, current day conductors, like a copper wire, for instance, as the electrons flow through the copper wire when electricity is running through that wire, right? They bang into the atoms of copper and the friction creates heat. So the wires warm up as power is running through them. And what that's doing is it's losing electrical energy in the form of heat. It generates waste heat. And it wastes a lot of the energy that goes through the wire. So you don't get the full amount of electricity at the far end of the wire that you put into on the near end of the wire. And what a superconductor does is it removes almost all of that resistance. But the problem is superconductors generally need to be cooled down with like at least like liquid nitrogen or they don't even run as warm as liquid carbon dioxide or dry ice as we know it. They won't even, most of them won't even run at that temperature. To be able to run a superconductor at room temperature like 70 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 degrees, whatever, that is a big deal for energy efficiency. So this is a majorly important article. If you're into science and you want to know about this one, it's definitely worth going and checking it out. But um, it could make a major difference in the future for everyone in the cost of electrical power. All right, so next, this one's really cool. The Chernobyl disaster, Chernobyl now extreme fungus. Um, all right, let me get over on the article and we'll talk about this. This Chernobyl fungus that eats radiation. It's a fungus that actually lives on the radiation in the Chernobyl reactor. I mean, you want to talk about your mutant creature from, uh, well, it's not exactly a horror show because it makes the environment around there safer than it would otherwise be. And here's where this gets to be a big deal. If this fungus can be put on spacecraft as additional radiation shielding and eat the radiation that bombards spacecraft that are outside Earth's magnetic field. This is a big deal. It's also a big deal for nuclear waste storage and the issues that come along with that. So this is a really, really cool story, and just kind of amazing in a way. You never know what you're going to come up with. Well, in this case, we've got a fungus that eats radiation rather than Godzilla coming out of the waters around Fukushima. But anyway, moving on, because we have a huge one. All right, mad scientist, go clean your room. Or lab. Anyway, we're done with hard science and we're on to Bones's journal. All right, get your mint juleps ready. And if you're old enough to watch the original Star Trek series, then you'll know what I'm talking about there. We're going to talk about health and aging. So, first up, could young blood stop us from getting old? So, what they're talking about here, let me uh, click on that. There are some substances and proteins and such in the blood of the young that are different than the proteins and substances that you find in older folks. And they're wondering if duplicating that protein mix from younger blood could actually help reduce the symptoms of aging. Number one would be inflammation, which is the basis for things like arthritis and such. So, pretty big deal this article if you're into aging. And if you remember, on a while back, I did an episode that talked about getting what I call getting 30'd. Anti-aging treatments or rejuvenation treatments that could make you, feel like you're 30 again. There's a lot of news in that. Obviously, I'm sharing this over on that blog as well. I've got all kinds of articles on the subject over there. But this one's worth enough to be able to bring it over onto Midwestern Geek in Cali because it should be getting talked about. So definitely go read it. And now let's talk about Neuralink. Elon Musk teases awesome advancements will be revealed soon. Now, I didn't get to read this article in depth. I had to do a real super fast skimmer on it, but I've read about Neuralink before. Elon Musk is talking about basically it amounts to a brain implant that allows your brain to talk directly to computers without having to use keyboards, mice, and video screens and all that. I'm not a big fan of invasive technology. I don't really like the idea of anything being implanted because of the risks that opening up the natural casings of the skull and stuff. Just from an infection perspective and stuff, I'm leery of something like this. But the idea of being able to directly link your brain to a computer is fascinating. I think it could make for an interesting future. I would just prefer some non-invasive form of that doesn't actually have to be implanted. But they're definitely making progress on this, and this is kind of a big deal. So uh, worth going and checking out. All right, let's go on to the next one here. How the sound of your alarm affects grogginess and which is best. So let's close that out. And basically, the gist of this article is that the sound of your alarm actually, um, if it's an annoying alarm, it's really going to make you more groggy when you wake up, is what they're basically getting at here. There's more to it than that, but I thought this a while back. I don't like being woken by an annoying alarm sound, so I use this one here, and let's see if I can get this to play for you. This is what I use for an alarm, and I'm kind of hoping you can hear that in the audio. but this is what I use as an alarm sound. And let's see if I can make it loop a little bit. All right. So I'm hoping you're hearing that in the feed. If not, I'll try and re-record it and bring it back over. But yeah, that's what I use for an alarm on my phone. To me, it's a lot less annoying than some of the other alarms out there, and uh, it's just pretty cool. So, yeah, I agree with this article in its essence, and definitely well worth a read and something to think about for the rest of you out there, because I know most of us really get annoyed with the alarm clock, and for very good reasons. And this might be one of them. Having a little bit more of a gentle alarm sound is probably better for you. All right, so revitalizing the aging brain by activating immune cells. Um, they're talking about basically getting rid of some of the plaques that are associated with Alzheimer's by having the immune system remove them. Definitely an article that is interesting and worth reading. Um, I, I'm I'm amazed at a lot of the stuff that's coming out with Alzheimer's these days. Let's get rid of that. And I shouldn't have to tell Google that having things bounce and blink in my face is annoying and distracting. So, anyway, onward to the next. And here we go. Synergistic cellular pathways identified that extend lifespan by 500%. Um, this is interesting. It's been tried in, I want to say it was in some type of bacterium that this was done in, that they discovered this in. They haven't really gotten a chance to try it yet on even mice. But if this really holds true and comes through, it's a big deal. Imagine being able to live to 500 instead of 100, and be fairly healthy along the way. That's a pretty interesting proposition there. So, like I said, a lot of interesting news on the aging front coming out. So, here we go. Caltech ultrasound technique can selectively kill cancer cells. So, using sound therapy to, I must have jumped ahead on one. Caltech ultrasound technique can selectively kill cancer cells. Say that one 5 times really fast while I sip on my coffee, otherwise known as geek fuel. All right. They're talking about using ultrasound to heat up and basically explode cancer cells while leaving normal cells behind. Very interesting article, and I'm really hoping it pays off. Caltech's a pretty respected institution, so I'm thinking this could be a big deal for the future of cancer treatment, and definitely well worth the read. Now, let's see if I did, yeah, molecular switch reverses chronic inflammation and aging. Yeah, I got ahead of myself. That's going to happen with a big episode like this. And basically, um, this one they're talking about switching genes on and off, and making cells act like they're younger again. So and stopping chronic inflammation, which this along with the one on blood, I think they're kind of along the same path, more or less. And I think they're going to find in the long run that these two articles are really discovering something. They're both coming at it from different angles, but I think it's the same thing. And I think it's a pretty big deal. So definitely worth a read if you're in the anti-aging thing. And now it's time for Frankenstein to take a nap. We're at the end of Bones's journal, and on to keep on Cybertrucking, electric trucks. Lots of news in electric trucks, and of course, Cybertruck is dominating that news. So let's talk about this first one here. Tesla's Gigafactory, or Giga Texas, completely solves the Cybertruck's cowboy problem. Well, what is the Cybertruck's cowboy problem? Here's the thing. The folks in Texas really like trucks, and they really use trucks as workhorses. And the deal is they're building Cybertrucks in Texas and employing a lot of people in Texas to build those Cybertrucks. It's going to make it more likely that folks in Texas will try out the Cybertruck if they're actually employed in making it and it's made there in their state. So Texas is by far the biggest truck market in the US, probably in the world. So this is a big, big deal for the Cybertruck. And this is where I think Elon Musk is crazy like a fox a little bit. And really, really interesting story, and kind of love the graphic too, because I'm still kind of in love with that Cybertruck. I want one someday. I found out the low end one's like 40 grand, 39.9, isn't it? Um, anyway, uh, just dreaming a little bit. Um, so this next one's kind of fun. Cybertruck blasts Back to the Future, an amazing fan remake. Uh, yeah, this one, you need to go watch the video for yourself because I'm not going to play it for you, but you should. They took that scene, yes, the 88 miles per hour tire fire in the parking lot scene, and redid it with the Cybertruck, and it's super freaking cool. That is so fun, and I will let you go back to the future with your own eyeballs. So go click on that link and enjoy. Definitely. All right. So, will Tesla make these changes to the Cybertruck before launch? Now, let's reload this guy. So, this is a YouTube video. I'm not going to play it right now, but this YouTuber is guessing that they'll make certain specific changes to the Cybertruck before it actually um, goes into full production. And I think that one of my other articles coming up, it's not the next one, but the one after, you'll see shortly here, disproves some of what this guy is speculating, but maybe some of it might be accurate too. It's definitely, if you're interested in the Cybertruck long term, this is definitely a video worth watching, but I also think the story that counterpoints it is going to be of interest as well, and even maybe even more so. So let's move on. All right. Nikola reveals Badger electric pickup truck with 600-mile range. So let's get over there and take a look at that. And okay, I'll do a little bit of a reload on this here, and I had an awful lot of browser tabs open, so I'm not surprised I'm running into that. And let's kill the blinky blinky. And that's a pretty awesome looking truck there, uh, and it's definitely interesting, and 600-mile range. If you're a fan of electric trucks and all the stuff that's happening with electric trucks, this looks much more traditional than a Cybertruck, but it's still very futuristic. Um, and definitely worth a read. And it's kind of making the same point I'm going to be making with an article at the tail end of this section. So go check it out. There's another new kid on the block with the electric truck market. And here we go. Keep on Cybertrucking. All right. So now this one is going to counterpoint that YouTube video about the Cybertruck being changed before launch a little bit, and I think it gets into specifically one of the points that the YouTube video was talking about. Tesla Cybertruck engineering analysis explains exoskeleton's edges and more. So, okay, reload there. And here we go. This is another YouTube video, but there's an article that goes with it. And it's definitely interesting. And it dives more into the structure of the Cybertruck as it's currently designed and gives some really fascinating insight into this thing. I think that there's a couple of points that other YouTuber was talking about that are going to be wrong based on what's in this video here. I think this is an important video to understand why Cybertruck looks the way it does, why it's going to be a lot better than people think it is. And if you're a mechanical engineer in particular, I think this is a really good video for you to watch. But also, just as a layperson who's interested in electric trucks, this really showcases some of the more badass engineering that went in under the skin on the Cybertruck. So definitely give it a check out. Probably if you're a Cybertruck fan or an electric truck fan, this is probably the best article of the show right here along those lines. Uh, Pardon the pun. So onward. Um, how it's made. Watch the Tesla Cybertruck model construction process. So this one's a little bit more fun. And of course, there's a little bit of a reload here because we are talking about a model of the Cybertruck. And believe it or not, this little model of the Cybertruck was used in another YouTube video somewhere to actually tow something pretty large. So electric vehicles are awesome because of the amazing amount of torque that they have as soon as you apply power. So this is pretty cool, and it's a fun little YouTube video. This is a little on the lighter side, and I will let you go watch on your own. Enjoy. All right, and now let's get over to Henrik Fisker teases or accidentally posts Alaska EV pickup. Okay, so this was captured from a post that was deleted by Henrik Fisker, but is Fisker coming out with an electric pickup truck? If you believe this, it looks like they are. So, um, not a lot of detail here, but cool and interesting. So, go read it and check it out. And let's go back to the last article in this sector on Cybertrucking. The electric pickup wars are about to begin, and this one's from CNN. And let's close out some of the blinky stuff. And yeah, well, that one I'm stuck with, kind of looks like. Electric pickup wars are about to begin. Well, I think that's kind of what I've been showing you all along. There's a Ford F-150 electric coming out. You see Fisker doing one, and now the Badger, and the Cybertruck, and of course Cybertruck is the lead-in because this is the one making all the news and kind of stealing my heart a little bit. Um, but anyway, definitely an interesting story, and I think as you can see, it's going to get fierce with the electric pickups and the competition. So that's only a good thing for people who are interested in eventually have an electric pickup because the more competition there is, the more reasonable the prices are going to be. Um, if you believe the theory of capitalism. So there we go. That's most of the night's show. I have one further article. I know some of the progressive folks out there are going to not like one of the names in here, but I think this story deserves a spot in the show because of what it's talking about. And we're going to end the Cybertrucking section with okay, hand over the keys and go to jobs in tech's gilded age. How a Walmart apprenticeship can help those without degrees land a job. And it's about more than just that company. So don't tune out just quite yet. Microsoft, Twitter, and Walmart want to help you get a job in tech without racking up student loans. All right, and see that one there without racking up student loans. Now, this is something that I have been saying for years, that apprenticeships have kind of almost gone the way of the dodo. People used to get hired and trained up in house without going to school, and Here they are talking about all kinds of firms like Ford, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Sony Electronics, Sprint, Toyota, Twitter, Visa, Walmart, IBM, I think, was mentioned somewhere in this article. It's a big deal, and what they're talking about is apprenticeships in technology. You go to work and they train you on the job in various tech. And as you get more skilled, your wages build up. That's a very old school model of doing things that was much more prevalent in the mid to early 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, and earlier. That was pretty common practice in industry. And then we went to this all no, everybody's got to know everything before we'll even hire them at all kind of model that started prevailing in the 1980s and later. And apprenticeships, other than union apprenticeships, kind of went uh, really down the tubes. And guess what? They're finding out people can't afford college. We can't find people that know how to do what we need them to do. And we want workers that aren't so indebted with student loans that they can't afford to drive to work, pay for the gas. So they're kind of bringing apprenticeships back, and it's starting in the tech industry. So I think this is a really actually good note to end the evening and the episode on. I think this is definitely worth a read. If you're interested in getting into tech, you might want to start here and kind of find out about this. Check this article out. But without racking up student loans, that should be a good thing. I think this actually is an interesting development. I'm not surprised that it's happening in the technical industry to begin with. Um, I think you're going to see more and more of this coming along. Yeah, so definitely worth a read. Don't let the names of the companies in particular scare you off from checking it out and reading the article with an open mind. Granted, nothing's ever perfect, but I think this is overall a good development and worth checking out. So, on that note, I'm going to close that one out and end Jobs and Tech's Gilded Age with the famous old saying, get a haircut and a real job. And let's pop back over to the infinity screen for a moment. And I'll take the readers off and get back on camera with you for a minute. And let's just say I've had a lot of fun recording this or this episode. It's been a huge episode, about the biggest one I've ever done, and probably as big as I want to do. I want to thank everyone who's watching. If you've stuck with it all the way through this long, I really appreciate your viewership. Any commentary you might have, and you can, as always, find us at MidwesternGeekandCali.com. You can find us on Twitter at MidwestGeekCali. If you go to MidwesternGeekandCali.com, the right sidebar, there's those geek links over there. You can find all of our online presence. There's multiple ways to get a hold of us. Drop me a line by email. Drop me a DM or a tweet on Twitter. Hit me up in the Facebook discussion group. Hit me up on Discord. Whatever suits you. I will follow up with comments if they're of a serious nature and actually, I appreciate the feedback, appreciate the viewership. And on that note, I'm going to say, have a great evening, everyone. May there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. Okay, and happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And on that note, have a good night.